This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Party Loaded podcast. It is the 2nd of August. It is a Thursday night. We are going to be giving you, once again, your weekly hit of everything great in the world of video games, of which there's a lot, as per usual. And I want to bring in a couple of people to hang out tonight and talk about it. So we got Jam. Hello, Jam.
Yo, hello.
Yo.
Yo,
What's
yo.
up? What's happening,
Stuff.
Christian? We got Christian here.
Yo.
Oh, we sound terrible.
I had to one up your number of yo's.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, we
yes,
actually are all full of beans tonight, and I want to tap that energy as much as possible.
Not in a gassy
and
way.
roll on through. What was that?
Not in a gassy way.
No. We will have a blast.
You don't know this is over Skype.
It'll be a real hoot.
Nice. I would make a fart joke, but normally that just ain't us. So,
Oh,
all right.
God.
Oh, no.
Moving on.
That's your fault, Christian.
I'm sorry.
No, it's been an interesting week as far as trying to, have an optimal recording window because we've had buckets of hail coming down at inopportune moments, threats of power outages, just apocalypse storm weather again in Perth down here. So I think we've struck it lucky tonight. I can't hear any rain on anybody's end of the microphones for a change. That's good.
So far, so good.
Yep. All right. So
Should
let's
probably
power
wrap
on
this
through.
up, though.
No. Right,
Just in
wrap this
case.
up. Right,
Just in
Thanks for
case.
listening, everyone.
Well, all right. Storms aside, let's kick into some. I want to follow up on some of our No Man's Sky discussion from last week because I think that it's fair to say that Jam and I at least have pumped a fair bit more time into that game this week and
Just a
maybe
bit.
have some extra thoughts on it. So,
Just a tad.
How's it treating you, Jam? What's your
Me?
spacefaring experience been like?
Pretty good. The biggest goof I've had so far is wandering too far from my refiner and losing the mats in it.
Oh, yep.
But I found a few lovely planets to make bases on. Very calm, beautiful. The biggest hassle are the robots are a little bit angry.
Oh, the Sentinels? Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, listening to the others go exploring and finding firestorms on their bountiful, beautiful planets. They're like, this place is gorgeous. It's perfect. Oh, God. The sky is raining fire.
And it's killing me.
So funny. So funny. And one of the other planets, I've discovered my most lucrative way for making money is
Do
stealing
tell.
Gravitino balls.
Oh, yeah.
But this planet has very angry robots, and they pop up immediately as soon as you start. So I've boosted my speed and my jetpack and my jump boots, whatever the hell. What are the boots called?
There are actually rocket boots. Like, I've got an
Yeah,
upgrade
rocket
called
boots.
that. Yeah.
And I'm like, yoink, 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 fly away! Or run away as fast as I can, keeping just ahead of the robots as I fill my inventory as much as possible. Most I've hauled so far is like 120
Wow, that's actually quite a few.
Gravitino balls, which made me nearly 2 million credits. Yeah, boy.
I do like that one of our friends made a game out of this as well. That was quite a nice touch.
And I immediately broke it. But then he now has the record. I think he got to 130.
Oh Jesus, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all a matter of who's, got the most slots in their exosuit.
So Christian,
Right
for your
now.
reference, these are just like giant glowing balls that just sort of sit on the ground.
They
So
blind you when you approach them closely.
yeah, it's like
And
a
they're
high
worth a
beam
lot of
in
money.
your face,
Right.
basically. So
And you grab the first one, and the robots around you go, wait, what? And start closing in on you. And they're angry.
yeah.
And they shoot you.
Jan,
So
you
you're just
meant-
like running.
You mentioned something about losing mats because you went too far away from something. What's that?
Yeah, the little portable refiner, you can put basic materials in there and refine them into the more advanced versions. What I did was I had that set up in my base thinking, it's cool, it's my base, it'll stay there. Went a wandering for some more copper, clearly went too far because I came back and both the fuel in the refiner and the original and refined materials were gone.
Is this like too far as in off planet or on the same planet?
No, same planet.
Wow,
It was
that's
about, I don't know, probably 600 clicks. I don't know what the actual
That's
distance
not cool.
is.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right to me. That sounds like
I had
some
no
sort
idea.
of janky
It might
bug
be a
stuff.
glitch, but thankfully one of our friends said, yeah, they've had it happen to them. They found they need to stay close to it. So now I know.
Okay.
It doesn't take too long either to wait for it to refine. I just thought I'd, get the jump on it. So that's not too bad. But we've had some friends experience some pretty serious glitches, both in freighters.
Oh, Imogen's one was probably the highlight. So I'm just going to read out the message that she sent us like right now on our No Man's Sky chat. So she said, I was on my combat ship and suddenly dropped through the floor into space. Lost technology modules, platinum, a bunch of those lost technology things you dig up and a bunch more. So yeah, basically she fell through the floor of her freighter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was listening to it live and there was just this high-pitched squeal to start with when she realized what had happened. Because she died in space, she lost her staff and her ship technically, was destroyed, which means it lost stuff and broke. It was just heartbreaking. And all because she was walking around her freighter.
Wow.
So that's a pretty bad glitch. And Ari had something happen very similar. He rescued a freighter and boarded it to go talk to the Admiral to see if he could purchase it off him. And as he got very close to the Admiral in the cockpit area, he fell partially through the floor to a point where he was really close to being able to touch the guy, but couldn't interact with him and couldn't get out. He ended up having to just force quit the game, and it had been 20 minutes since he last saved. So he lost that progress. But we're playing on survival, so death is punishing. You lose stuff and stuff breaks.
Yep. Well, the worst part is your technology that breaks that you have to actually repair, because that requires not only resources to do so, but a whole bunch of running around to get what you need.
And Memo had just spent so much money getting technology modules and whatnot to get ready to upgrade a bunch of things. So she was carrying a lot of stuff.
Yep. It's true, though, like the regular jank that can happen when you're planet side is bad enough, but it seems like space jank is a whole other level of just terrible. So when you're losing ship as well as your personal sort of inventory, that's rage quit moment stuff
and
there.
And today I logged in and fired my photon laser up in space at an asteroid. There weren't even bad guys around, and my ship was taking damage.
What?
Every shot I fired was causing me damage, and it was happening to a friend as well. So there are still glitches in the game. Be warned if you play survival mode, or I don't even know, is there a harder mode?
Well, there's the
Super Doom Deathy one.
Yeah, it's basically the one death run one. So I forget what they call it. It's like an Iron Man mode essentially.
Be very careful.
Yeah.
And even that might not help you. But otherwise, I'm having such an extraordinary amount of fun with this game.
Yeah.
All that aside, it's got beautiful places to explore. They've done a really good job of making all of the planets interesting to look at and experience. There used to be some horrifically barren, boring, crappy ones that you had to traverse. And now I'm just having so much fun coasting. I mean, there was one planet that was like 99% water, but that one island I found was stunning. And I got some beautiful photos. I'm loving photo mode.
Yeah, I'm loving photo mode from an internet perspective too, because, following the various different, Hello Games employees' Twitter accounts and seeing them sharing a whole bunch of stuff that fans are posting is really cool. There's some good stuff out there. If they don't run a contest, I'll be very surprised.
Oh, yeah. That'd be silliness.
Yeah.
And I'm currently trying to start working on my base building, which I haven't done very much. I want to understand how that works so I can start farming. But yeah, it's good fun. It's a beautiful game, and I'm very much enjoying it.
I'm finding that I should like this game less, given how much jank is in it. It's one of those things that you have a certain love-hate relationship with aspects of it, but overall the experience is much greater than the sum of its parts kind of thing. So,
especially with friends.
Well, I don't know. I'm divided on that. Like, I think the multiplayer stuff is... Like, I have more fun playing the game simultaneous with you guys sort of just chatting about what we're doing.
That's that too, because we've got about, 8 or 9 people playing at the moment. We can only have 4 of us in the same, technically instance at the same time, but we're still jumping on together.
That's kind of my point, though. Like, we're not really interacting in the game. Like, we're interacting outside the game while we're all playing the game.
I don't know. I've been the medic. I've been running around taking people's supplies when they're desperately desperate. I did that today. I dropped some oxygen off to someone who was AFK and then popped off to grab dinner. And the next thing he's dead. I'm like, but I left you some oxygen. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't know. They also had only just started survival, so they didn't know they were going to lose all of their stuff.
Yeah.
That was funny.
I'll tell you one other call I have made as well, though, Jam. I've switched to first-person mode. I've decided I don't like the third.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently third person's quite fun when you're flying around.
Well,
and a little bit easier.
The problem I've got with third-person mode is that it's not true third-person. And what I mean by that is when you're running around in third-person mode, you've got the targeting reticle in the middle of the screen still, so allowing you to sort of hover that over the things that you want to interact with. But unlike regular third-person mode games where you actually move up into proximity with something and then you can interact with it still requires you to put that targeting reticle immediately over what you want to interact with, no matter whether you're standing right next to it or not. And it's basically it's a first-person sort of mechanic with a third-person view overlay. It's kind of cheating the system in a way, if you get what I mean. Yeah.
I only had it on third person for 5 solid seconds.
Right.
Before I changed it. I want an unimpeded view of these beautiful environments that I'm exploring. I love the first person view.
Third person's good for photos on occasion to put yourself in the shot, but yeah, it's...
oh yeah, that's easy though. You don't need to change perspective. You move the camera.
Yeah. My other biggest complaint is just around the base building stuff. Like they really need to fix, and this has got to be a bug, the whole thing when you put a base computer down, it won't let you move it. So
yeah, but it makes sense.
But it doesn't, because there's actually a control when you hover over the thing to pick the thing up, like most of the other mobile bits of tech, and it just won't let you do it. So it's something.
Maybe you have to deregister the base first.
No, I don't know. And this kind of speaks to a lot of the issues that I've got with the game at the moment. Like, despite all the fun stuff, which, far overwhelms the issues I've got, but, they are there regardless. The learning curve for this game, because of how little it actually explains to you, is huge. Like, you do need to spend a fair bit of time outside, looking through wikis if you really want to learn about stuff. You can have that complete sense of mystery and wonder, but there is a certain point where some of the fundamental basic stuff doesn't work the way that you think it should, and you need to look it up. So the base computer stuff is one of them. Like, the fact that you put down a base computer and you kind of claim like an area, like a radius around you, but then you start building your base, and particularly when you unlock different sort of technology that has different shapes and sizes when it comes to the parts that you put down, sometimes you want to reposition your base computer, like particularly if you put it inside one of the structures, you don't want it to... Like, I had it on a wooden floor, and I started changing the stuff that I was using to make my base into some of the new metal parts that look a lot funkier and more high-tech. But I got into a position where I got rid of the floor, and I overlaid, like, a different type of building on top of where the base computer was, and now it's actually, like, halfway through the floor and I can't move it. Like, you walk in and it's just like, hey, and here is Exhibit A, which is this galaxy's version of base building Space Jank, because we've got half a base computer in the floor, so, that's a thing. I don't know. It's...
Build around it.
Minor frustrations, but this stuff just seems like this is something that everybody would be experiencing too. Like, it's not a particularly niche part of the game. It's something that everyone must be doing, so it must be on their radar. Like, I kind of, when Minecraft updates happen and they have like the log of all the changes with the updates, and they've got that running gag about Herobrine. Yeah, like removed Herobrine from the game. I would love them to do that with No Man's Sky, and just every update they just sort of at the end of it said remove more Space Jank or something like that. That'd be great. So yeah, I don't know, but it's good. It's still good fun. I'm enjoying it a lot, and but I'm at the point now where I'm sort of starting to have a wandering eye back to some other games at the same time too, and just not playing it 100% of the time, just kind of chilling out with it and then doing other things at the same time, which is a happy place to be, I think. So yeah. But yeah, we did play a little bit of Overwatch during the week as well for one particular purpose, so I thought we might want to just touch on that briefly. So
Hammond!
Yeah, what were your thoughts on Wrecking Ball, Jam? What did you...
I like the idea. I was rubbish at it. I think it's going to take some time. He's got a bit of a learning curve, but he's incredibly mobile, which is amazing. With his little grappling hook, he can really move for a tiny little hamster. I think played well. He's a great addition, but when we jumped into the No Limits one so we could all try him out, it was just like balls rolling everywhere. It was insane. It was a bit chaos, and the people fighting us were prepared for it and just smashed us.
Yeah. It's one of those products of a new character launch. I think everybody sort of has their eyes on that particular character, and they're the first thing to get shot. So yeah. That being said, he was not taking a lot of damage before he went down each time. Like, he's not the most survivable of characters, is the big learning point I
Yeah,
had.
but I don't know how much of that is honestly, the team we were playing, they were focus firing really well.
Yeah.
Each of us were melting, and we were drip feeding in, so that wasn't a good.
Sure, he has that shield ability that's supposed to help his survivability, but you have to use that properly, right? Because you have to pop it when you're near enemies to get more shield.
Basically, yeah. You've got to be right up in their face.
I didn't get that right.
I'm not sure that his other abilities are best suited to being up close either. Like, his main sort of ranged weapon is a decent ranged weapon. Like, it's not a close-up thing like Winston's electric gun or anything like that. Like, it's designed to be used at a decent range. So being right up in the enemy's face, I don't think does you a lot of favors apart from powering up your shield. And I'm just not sure if the payoff is worth it in terms of how much focus you're going to cop back from the rest of them. So... but the fact that he's just so huge as well is an issue because he's a lot easier to hit when he gets shot at. So I don't know. I'm undecided. I don't think he's for me. Like, I was thinking he might be something I'd really enjoy playing sort of aggressively, but I don't know. He seems paper thin.
Yeah, but we didn't play for long.
Yeah, it's true.
I think people are going to have a lot of fun.
I messed around with him just a tiny bit in the training mode and decided that it's not my kind of character.
Yeah,
just the crazy mobility of bouncing around in the wrecking ball mode and using the grappling hook.
So nuts!
Like it's just too much for me to handle.
To process. Yeah, I was just flying, going, wait, what? Huh? Where?
I could see how people would become like expert at it and be really precise and really like strategic. But yeah.
Very map dependent as well. Like, you kind of want some really good points to grapple to and swing and slam down.
Hanamura, when the other team like pushed that first point and they just attached to the bell and started spinning around it, that was amazing.
Well, any indoor area, it would be mad. You'd be running around doing huge amounts of damage. But what's that? Not Hollywood. Well, actually, Hollywood's probably a good example because a lot of that level sort of is outside as well. But Route 66, that huge stretch where you're outside and there's not a lot of stuff to latch onto, that might be a problem. Yeah. So I don't know. He seems cool. I'm glad he's in the game. I just don't know if it's going to be my pick for sure. But fun to test out anyway. I want to talk about a little game that I picked up during the week and had a bit of a play with because this is an old school game sort of come re-release. So I picked up the Mega Man X Legacy Collection.
So one or two? Because
I got the first one.
Yeah.
I will ultimately get the second one as well, just for sake of completeness. But I got the first one because I wanted to play through that first. So the Mega Man X Legacy Collection has been split into two releases. The first one that I picked up containing Mega Man X 1 through 4. And it also includes a special new mode as well, which is called the X Challenge mode, I think I've got the name right. So the game itself is pretty much all of the Mega Man X games as you remember them. Now, I was hoping that there was a little bit of polish applied and a little bit of remastering or something like that, but I'm almost 100% confident that with the exception of a few controller scheme changes, it is just the exact same game. It could even be emulated because quality-wise, it hasn't jumped up any notches at all. So, which is good and bad.
I don't think they really like sold it that way though. Really, it is just supposed to be the game's repackaged, right? It's not a remaster.
Yeah.
It's a collection. It's a collection. It's not a remaster.
No, true. I didn't go in expecting it necessarily, but I was just hoping for it to be a little bit smoother in parts than I remembered. Like there's some definite screen jittering when you're playing some of the levels, which is annoying.
That's fun. That's like Mega Man games have always been like noted for their slowdown. That's like factored into the design.
It's true. Like compared to some more recent sort of shooty platformers, it's definitely not as fast moving as some of the more modern stuff. But that's fine. I mean, that is Mega Man, and you kind of you learn the behaviors of the characters, and ultimately a lot of the enemies that you fight against have the same issue too. So you're kind of on even footing. But yeah. I mean, the games are hard. Like anyone who's ever played the Mega Man games would know that they are very tough platformers, and they're precision sort of gameplay that you really need to learn by muscle memory to do well in some of the spots. Like you will replay some of the levels like multiple times to sort of get them down, and some of the boss fights as well. I mean, the levels are fun, but a lot of the game is about the boss fights and the unique nature of the different sort of boss rooms that you go through and the different weapon pickups that allow you to change the way that you approach each of those. Because, I mean, typically the way that you play each Mega Man game is there's usually 8 bosses. You can approach them in any order you like, but usually the weapons that you pick up from each of the bosses are extremely strong against 1 or 2 of the other bosses. So you kind of learn how to sequence it and work out what's good against what, and then kind of, chain your way through the game like that. So relearning which ones are the ones to kind of start with and which sequence to go in again takes a bit of trial and error, so that's fun to sort of go through and do that. But, the formula is pretty much the same. But, I mean, Mega Man X also has the wall jumping stuff, which is different to the old Mega Man games, which adds a bit of fun when it comes to the platforming element. So being able to sort of jump onto a wall and slide down shooting, is a whole new dimension when it comes to some of the fights, which is cool. So, it's good fun. But the real selling point for the collection is the X challenge mode. So what that is it puts you in a boss battle only, taking some of the enemy mavericks from all through the entire series. So the Legacy X Collection 1 puts you in the X challenge mode against 2 bosses from the first 4 games, and I'm assuming the second one would just be from that side of the collection as well. You have to fight them both at the same time in the one room, but the catch is that you actually get to select any 3 of the different weapons sort of to go into that fight with out of all 4 of those games. So if you know which ones are strong, then you can kind of, preempt what you need to do by picking the ones that are going to give you the edge. But because you're fighting 2 of them at once, it's still a really friggin' hard fight. So, some of them behave similarly in terms of the way that they move around the screen. Some of them are just all over the place. And when they start splitting up, holy shit, it's a nightmare. So
yeah, it sounds tough.
Complete bullet hell. Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been enjoying it. It's good. The games are harder than I remember. Maybe not Cuphead hard, but still pretty damn hard. So, yeah, if you're a fan of those old styles games, I would recommend it. But I picked it up on PlayStation 4 after reading a bunch of reviews saying that there was a lot of frame drops with the PC versions, and apparently the Switch one has not done well either. So if you're going to pick it up, I'd suggest maybe going Xbox or PS4 for this one if you have those options available. So, yes. But, bit of nostalgia there, which is good. And Christian, I know you've sort of just been pottering away on the same sort of stuff, so a bit more Octopath, a bit more... Hearthstone's a focus because we've got our expansion coming up in the next week, so that's going to be some good times.
Stayed up last night and watched the start of the reveal stream, reveal stream, and I fell asleep during it, but that's good. And then just more Octopath. Game continues to be good. And then lots of Slay the Spire, which we'll be talking about later, but not much else.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, well, let's kick on into a bit of news for this week. So, again, it's still reasonably slow time of the year, but we have got some interesting stuff around Nintendo to talk about this week. So, the report came out a couple of days ago that apparently the Nintendo Switch has now sold just under 20 million units. So I thought it might be fun to have a little bit of a chat about what that actually means, because it's kind of just a number when you read it like that. But when you start comparing it to some of the other consoles and what they hit around that time, it starts to get a bit more interesting. So Sony was the one that kind of stuck out to me immediately afterwards, because if you were to compare the Switch's sales to that of the PlayStation 4, which of course is the market leader at the moment, you get a pretty good idea of how well the Switch is selling currently. So the number of PlayStations sold currently indicate that it's around the 73, 74 million units. So it's the best-selling console of this generation, and that's up until the end of last year. So it's obviously more than that since then. Now, that means that if you do the reverse math, it's about 18.4 million units per year since the PS4 launched. Mm-hmm. So now that's really, that's a ballpark estimate. This is not exact numbers, and of course it doesn't account for the various spikes, when you come to launch and stuff. Yeah, exactly. But it gives you a bit of an idea as to what the market leader sort of has done in terms of raw sales. So if you compare that to the Switch is doing really, really well. So... Yeah. What do you guys think about
I'm one of those numbers now, so I get it.
I think it's not surprising. I think the Switch has really taken off, and it's won a lot of people over, and the sort of mind share of Nintendo stocks has gone up a lot. Like another interesting stat to compare this to is Wii U Lifetime Sales were just under 14 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's already blown right past Wii U Lifetime Sales.
Wow. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So and I think there's been lots of chatter of why isn't this game getting a Switch port? Why isn't this game getting a Switch port? Because people they're on the platform already and they're thirsty. So
yeah, there's a lot of Wii U games that didn't get love during that generation because people just didn't want to buy a Wii U. But now that they can play it on Switch, that's a whole other thing. So
definitely.
The other thing that's been sort of entering into the conversation a fair bit, which I tend to agree with, is almost like the DS and the 3DS. It's the kind of console that it actually makes sense for some households to have multiple of. So. When you compare that to PlayStation, which, very rarely makes sense to have more than one of those in a house, you can understand where some of those extra numbers get a bit of a boost. But the way it's become just an absolute indie game monster in the last year too, I think has done them a lot of favours. So
yeah.
It has unfortunately caught a bit of the original Wii's disease of shovelware, where because it has gotten so popular, you look at the Switch eShop and it's just a dumping ground for tons of frankly, bottom barrel games that have just been sort of pushed out. And I don't think there's really enough curation on the storefront yet. I think they could do a better job with that. That's just a symptom of its success, though.
Discoverability will continue to be a bit of a problem with that. Yeah. No, it's not quite as bad as the Apple Store or Steam.
No, not as bad as that, but yeah, it's pretty bad in some places.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One thing that we can say is a bit of a standout, though, is Nintendo have announced some more Labo stuff coming out. So apparently we're getting a vehicle-themed Nintendo Labo kit real soon. So nothing shown at E3, but, as predicted, they have not finished with the line and there's more stuff planned. They just decided to announce it at a different part of the year. So now, I would have to go back and look at the original footage from when Labo first launched to see if there was much of this captured in that stuff. But I think there were a few bits of the toy cons for the vehicle stuff. So there's going to be a submarine controller, which there's like a button. You can launch a grappling hook in that one. There's a standard vehicle kit, so like with a big steering wheel. There's a Toy-Con pedal as well, which I think that was one of the ones shown in the original videos a few months back. And a plane as well as part of the stuff in there. It looks weird, wacky. It's typical Labo stuff. It's that kind of mechanics that you just don't understand, and I would love to see up close. But yeah,
I think the original set had the bike handlebars.
Yeah,
that was what there. But I think these things are all new. I don't think any of this was shown off before this announcement.
Okay, interesting.
I might be wrong there, but I thought it was all new.
It's some weird and wacky things to do with some of them, though. Like the steering wheel, for instance, apparently has a cord, and you can actually pull the cord to pop a wheelie in the game that you use it with. So you have like a little four-wheel sort of Jeep that you're driving around. So that sounds really cool. My son's Labo kit that he got for his birthday a number of weeks ago is actually still in the box. We haven't built it yet because, he's been so distracted with Minecraft lately, he hasn't even touched it.
I reckon there's tons of kids out there with Labos in boxes and they're all just playing Fortnite.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. No. But any games that sort of exist already that you can use that stuff with, I think would be much more attractive than custom games that come with the Labo stuff. Like if you can use this stuff for Mario Kart 8, for instance, that is much more appealing to me than some sort of custom weird sort of car title that ships with this stuff. So yeah, I don't know.
That could create a little bit of like an amiibo problem where it's like you don't want to have to buy it to get certain things in the game, but you want it to have a use on its own. Like,
True.
I wouldn't want to miss out on any content because I didn't have Labo, but I want Labo to have its own purpose. It's kind of
yeah. I wonder if they will take the amiibo approach with this though, where it's sort of like the accessibility for a few bonus items, but not changing the core of what you can do in the game. Yeah, which wouldn't be terrible. I mean, again,
I think that'd be all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's some Labo where they've done well with that, and some where they haven't. So it's you got to select the right one. But that's interesting anyway. But yeah, what else is going on?
Something announced today that I'm looking forward to, which is Valve announced the release date for Artifact, which is their upcoming collectible card game or trading card game.
Finally proof that Valve are making games again.
Yes, they are making games again. So this is the card game that's themed on Dota 2, and it's like split into 3 different lanes where you have sort of 3 mini card games at once. And they've put the date for November 28th this year is when it's going to come out. Which is pretty cool. And it's going to cost $20 up front. So unlike a game like Hearthstone, which is free to play out the gate, this is $20 and you get like a 280 card set with it. And then additional cards you buy and sell on the community market. But it is interesting that it has this buy-in price, which a lot of trading card games don't tend to have online. So, yeah.
Sounds like you get a bit more to start with, though. So it's almost like you're buying your first set of cards as opposed to the game in some ways.
Yeah, like Valve have been pretty vocal saying that they want this game to be like they don't want it to be pay to win, and people have been very skeptical of them being able to achieve that with having a marketplace for cards too. Like it seems like it's going to be tricky for them to have a revenue stream from the game without it being kind of pay to win or having a lot of like investment needed in order to get the top decks. But yeah.
Being an expandable card game, they can always sort of adjust course later on if they need to with how they handle some of the minutiae of that, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm just really interested to see how Valve approaches this and how it pans out, just as like how original and how many new ideas are they going to introduce into this kind of system, because there are a lot of games that have just kind of aped Hearthstone's style.
Yeah.
So I want to see what Valve does to put a spin on it.
Well, I think the interesting thing is that not a lot of Dota fans are necessarily going to be drawn to this because of the Dota sort of theme. I think it's more the people that see that Richard Garfield is involved in the game's design that know card games that are probably going to be attracted to play this. So, we'll see.
Yes.
Some other news. Last couple of days, we had some new DLC hit for Sea of Thieves. And I still haven't checked out the last one. The new one is Cursed Sails. And what's cool about this one, it sounds like you can acquire cannonballs that are cursed.
Oh, okay.
If you hit with them, you hit another ship, it has some sort of effect, like making them drop anchor or making them drunk.
Oh.
Which is really interesting. That would add a slightly different dynamic to those ship fights.
Yeah.
Very, very curious. There's also an ongoing story with the merchant people. There's some kind of mystery. Something's going on. Some people are missing. Don't know what it is. So it's got the same sort of limited time story content that Hungering Deep had. Customization stuff and whatnot. But one of the coolest things is there's a new 3 cruise ship, which I think is awesome. Because if you're stuck with 3 people playing, which isn't quite enough to, do a 4-man ship without getting a noob or random, which can be super annoying.
So it was just 2 and 4 before, was it?
It was just 2 and 4, and now there's 3. I'd love for them to get 6. That would be sweet. That might be a bit too demanding on people who find it hard to get a group together. But yeah, it's free content. They've sticking to their promise of keeping things interesting and adding stuff regularly, which is awesome. And I think we should dive back in and check it out.
Now, I've seen a video with some of the content from this, and one of the highlights of the video was a skeleton ship basically coming out of the ocean and lurching up like a big sort of baddie threat. Is that something that has been added to the game like in a significant way, or is that kind of like the big bad for this expansion, sort of similar to how the Megalodon was for the last one? Do you know?
I'm assuming it's this expansion, but I haven't been playing.
Yeah, interesting. Because one of the things I remember us talking about when Sea of Thieves first came out is that it would be really, really cool for there to be NPC sort of threats around the ocean. So
we did say that.
Yeah.
See, here's me sitting here with my brain. It's been so long that I forgot that this was a new thing. I'm good at this.
Yeah.
It's a neat idea. And this, I'm guessing you can pick up the cursed cannonballs from these ships. I don't know. Gotta check it out.
Yeah.
It sounds like the game's got like hardcore fan base now. Like the people who weren't particularly interested or who were faffing around have moved on, a bit like us. And there's very keen people left who don't just do stupid stuff all the time, which was getting annoying.
I do see some of the more popular sort of streamers, like particularly that we know in Australia, sort of hopping on that game still fairly regularly. So I don't know, there must be some appeal there.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of games that we haven't touched a lot lately, but there's potentially still some appeal there. Destiny 2, bit of stuff this week for that. So they've announced a Legendary Collection, which is coming out this American fall, in line with the new Forsaken sort of a big expansion that's coming out. So this is kind of a collaboration package of all of the expansions together with Destiny 2. So if you haven't actually purchased any of the season passes to get the last couple of expansions, this pretty much gets you all up to speed for the new big one. So you'll be able to sort of jump straight in with Curse of Osiris and Warmind and Forsaken as well, which, that's obviously not out yet, but when it is, that'll all sort of be bundled together into this one legendary collection. So, because that stuff is pretty much required to play with all of the up-to-date content when it hits. So, what I find interesting about this is it's kind of similar to how they did the Taken King for Destiny 1, but they pitched it in a bit of a different way, because they kind of made the Taken King its own thing. Like the Taken King was a game on its own. Like it kind of wasn't pitched as a bundle so much, but functionally this seems like the same thing. So I don't know. I guess it's, you're splitting hairs at this point. You kind of buy it, you have everything you need to play current Destiny. That's all you really need to know about. So, but yeah, that's coming out on the 4th of September for all platforms, which is good. So no gap between PC and consoles, which I think is a big improvement on how it launched. And hopefully we never see that again, because that's so annoying. And a lot of the other content that was sort of console exclusive for PlayStation, I believe, with the initial launch, unlocks for the other platforms at that time too. So, which is good, because that'll give us like access to a strike that wasn't available before at the lower levels, and a couple of other bits and pieces, which is good. And the Solstice of Heroes event is the other thing that's going on at the moment. So they've got a new event that's just gone live, which is pretty much the prep for the expansion thing. So it's going to be the pretty much the only way at the moment to level up to the max power light level of 400 prior to the new content hitting. So there's some armor sets in there that apparently will get you up that far. And it's going to be running for pretty much the entire month of August. So anyone who's keen on getting ready for the Destiny 2 stuff happening in the next couple of months might want to jump in and wet their whistle with that first, and then you'll be ready to rock and roll when September rolls around, if you're not distracted by the other cool stuff coming in September, of which there is a bit.
So many.
Yes. Now, the last one that I just wanted to hit on briefly this week, because this was kind of an amusing one. So we've kind of, for a while now, I think, it's been pretty rife around the internet that there's been a lot of jokes about the whole cryptocurrency mining craze, and, Bitcoin this and, this coin that, and all these different businesses, making their own crypto, and oh my God, when's it going to end? So we basically reached peak crypto madness this week, where there was actually a Steam game that got pulled after it was revealed that it was actually secretly mining cryptocurrency through a security breach of any of the people who picked it up and started playing it. So
I am not surprised at all.
I'm just surprised inevitable. Luke let in with amusing. How is this amusing?
Oh, well, it's bad, don't get me wrong, but it's also so dumb that it's kind of funny.
Yeah, so because the end result for users was like just increased resource draw on their machines, right?
Yeah.
Which sucks, but no one's been defrauded or anything like that. So
I don't know. It's a resource. It's worth
money.
Yeah, they're ballsy though. Like, they actually charged for this game. Like, it wasn't a free game. Like, they were charging a ticket price. It's just like a crappy platformer called what was it? Abstraction or something? Abstractism. Yeah. So it was marketed as like a really sort of simple platformer with a nice relaxing design. But there's a couple of YouTubers that realized that something was not quite right, because there was an item scan running as well, where there was some stuff showing up on the Steam Marketplace that looked like Team Fortress 2 items, which were actually linked to this game. And people did a bit of investigating and found that there was like there was a rare rocket launcher sort of skin, which looked like the Team Fortress one, which had an identical thumbnail and description as that item, but someone picked it up, paid $100 for it, and then noticed it was attached to a different game, being this one. So, and then people started realizing that this game, as a simple platformer, was draining quite a lot of resources from their systems, which didn't make any sense. And, they called it out, and the publisher of the game actually said, this is standard. There's applications, including the game launcher, that Abstractism sort of needs to be able to drop items, yada yada. But no, it was bullshit, and they were just mining crypto through people's machines.
Dodgy.
Yep. So
I like that it was Malwarebytes that picked it up. People were posting screenshots of their Malwarebytes scans, saying that it was a threat, which is like one of the most common like virus scanners in like the world. So I don't know how they expected to get away with it when it was going to be picked up by something as surface level as Malwarebytes.
Yeah, maybe they're just hoping that in the short space of time that they got away with it, they'd make some gains, and then that was it. But I mean, we can whinge about the discoverability on the Switch all we like, but they haven't reached hidden crypto software status yet. So
that we know of. Don't blow my scheme, Luke.
Exactly. Oh, no. All right, well, that's all the crazy crypto stuff for this week. Let's kick on into our topic of the week. Now, I can't remember if this was your pick, Christian, or if it was someone else's that we rolled up, but what are we playing?
I think it was my
week?
pick.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, then it damn well should have been. So yeah, this was Slay the Spire was our game for this month, and damn did I love this game. So just to start off with some basics, the dev for this game is Mega Crit Games. I looked them up, and I think this is their first game. I couldn't see anything else they'd done.
Pretty sure.
And it seems to be a really small team. There's only like 2 people on the website and then some collaborators. Yeah, which is pretty cool. It came out November last year, so yeah, still less than a year into its life cycle. It is early access, so when I say came out, I mean entered early access. It's on PC only at the moment that I know of, and it's $16 US on PC. So yep, nice cheap price, and yeah. So the core mechanic of the game, I think it's easiest to mention that it's a roguelite or a roguelike, whichever word takes your fancy, which is games that have some random generation and like procedural progression, and you'll do a run and then you'll fail at some point and you'll go back to square one. Usually you might carry over something minor into your next run, but you pretty much lose all your progress when you die in a roguelike. And the more original thing about this game compared to contemporaries is that it is a deck building game. So you have a main character that you pick, and then each has like a uniquely styled set of cards. And as you sort of progress through different encounters in like a turn-based card battle system, you can add more cards to your deck, and you can acquire sort of relics, which are unique items that give you permanent bonuses like passive buffs or change the way certain interactions work. And yeah, you get progressively more difficult encounters as you move up the eponymous spire. And there are boss encounters and elite encounters, and there are some kind of choose your own adventure style choices where you can get a risk versus reward kind of decision tree. And yeah, you eventually die and go back to the start. And but no, I thought it was good fun. So anything else you guys would add about the mechanics of the game that I kind of skimmed over?
Well, Jam and I have played a couple of games in real life that are kind of similar to this, so we could probably do a little bit of a comparison to them. So we've played a game called Ascension, which is kind of like a versus the game kind of, collaborative card battler, which is similar to this in some ways. And
remind me?
Ascension, well, actually, you probably remember the other one I'm going to give as an example better. Do you remember the Marvel Legendary game?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very similar to that too.
Is that similar? Do you know the DC deck building game?
It's exactly the same mechanics as the Marvel one, yeah.
Yeah. So I played the DC deck building game, and yeah, that very similar to this, except... those are sort of multiplayer, I guess you'd call them, IRL multiplayer.
Yeah.
Whereas this is single player. And I think as far as comparing it directly to other games, the easiest comparison is like Binding of Isaac meets Darkest Dungeon is what I see. It has the sort of going through different levels and picking up random relics of Binding of Isaac, and then Darkest Dungeon. Same sort of thing, turn-based. They've got the more sort of turn-based combat of Darkest Dungeon, but you're using cards that you've drawn that turn instead of just set attacks that each party member has in Darkest Dungeon.
Definitely. I do kind of view it as Darkest Dungeon with cards in some ways. That's a good comparison, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd highlight the 3 characters a little more.
Oh, yeah.
They're really interesting. So at the start of each playthrough, you get a choice between 3 characters, and they all play really differently.
Let's take one each. I reckon that probably makes sense. So, Jen, do you want to do the first one? Yeah.
Like as in the first one you get, or the first one that I want to talk about? I'll
talk about the one you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the one I enjoyed playing but didn't do the best on was the Silent, the second character on the main screen.
Damn it, that was what I was going to talk about for sure.
Well, you can add. We'll see what I say, and then you can add to it.
Cool.
Her cards are green. She's a huntress. She's very sneaky. And she has this sort of shaman look about her. She's got a really cool skull cap. But her cards, she specializes in sort of deceptive styles of gameplay, which was really fun. You can get these shivs that don't cost you any, I don't know, would you call it mana or energy?
Yeah.
Energy, isn't they call it?
Energy, yeah. So you've got a limited amount per turn, which you can bump up in certain ways. These shivs are great because they don't cost anything and they do a little bit of damage. And if you pair them up with a really sweet relic you can get called the Boot, which automatically increases any simple attack to 5 damage, they hurt. She also has a poison attack, which the other characters don't, which is damage over time, which really helps if you can get that off early. And I just liked the theme of her character, very sneaky. The cards were just themed in that way, and it was good fun. Good fun to play. What else would you say about her, Luke?
Out of the 3 characters, I found her to be easily the most defensive. So a lot of cards that sort of added block to your profile when you're doing a run. So block in this game is basically a 1-turn layer of ablative protection. So when you might give yourself sort of say 5 block, and that gives you 5 extra points of damage you can absorb without sort of taking it to your core damage pool. But that sort of extra shielding only lasts for 1 turn unless you sort of augment it somehow with other cards. And when you're going on a run, you're basically sort of running through a whole bunch of different encounters, and your damage that you've taken sort of rolls on through each of those encounters. So you do get a few chances later on to heal at different points, but otherwise it's an attrition battle, so you kind of want to minimize the amount of damage you take in each fight. And I found that taking a character that had a lot of defensive tools available was good for the sort of long game as opposed to winning individual fights, so that was a good one. But I doubled down on the poison stuff more than anything when I played her. I thought the poison stuff was
so
awesome.
much fun.
Yeah, so that was good. Can I go next?
You take the next one, Lee.
Yeah, I'll talk about the defect because I thought the mechanic of the defect was really interesting.
I'm glad you took that one because it's really complicated.
It is. It's crazy. So the thing with the defect is it's kind of like a robot sort of character, like an artifact dude. Who basically starts off with 3 kind of orb slots that sort of sit over your head when you play, and you can channel different powers into sort of those orb slots, and they kind of have like an ongoing effect during the battle until you decide to spend them. So the 2 that I saw pop up the most often, there was like a lightning orb that you could sort of have sitting in one of them, which would do a little bit of sort of damage each turn, like it would zap the enemy each turn.
3 damage at the end of the turn.
Yeah, exactly. And there was like a frost one, which you could put into one of them as well, which sort of gave you a bit of armor each turn as well. And they kind of sit in these little slots, and you can rotate other powers in and rotate ones out, but you have a lot of cards that pop up in your deck that actually allow you to sort of spend those orb slots, which is kind of like a once-off sort of discharge of that orb that allows you to do a lot more damage with it, and then it disappears and you have to sort of load something else in its place. So I kind of feel like it's like having a loaded gun at all times, and sometimes you fire and then you have to reload the chamber before you can sort of do anything else, but at all times the rounds that you've got sort of sitting in the chamber are doing something for you. So yeah, it's
the awesome thing too is that if you channel one and there's no empty slot, it pushes out the first.
Yes.
And actually activates its active power, which is sweet. You can time that to great effect.
Yeah, like I found that it was more useful rather than looking for cards which expend the orbs, which they call evoke, rather than looking for cards that evoke the orbs. It's better just to get more cards that add more orbs, because then like James said, they'll just push out the rightmost one, and that automatically evokes it.
Yeah.
And what you hope is that it's a darkness orb, which just increases in damage for the longer it sits in there, because they're fun.
Yeah, those are brutal. Doubles the amount of damage that it does to the weakest enemy when you spend it.
Yeah.
So good.
And then just the plasma one's good too, which just gives you more energy for your next turn. So
I don't think I saw the plasma one.
Yeah, it's cool.
I did see a card that gave you 2 additional orb slots though. That was kind of cool. So you could have 5 orbs going at once.
Yeah, I had an ultimate card that let me gain orb slots based on how many the super uber duper card discharged. So at one point I think I had 8 or 9 floating around my head. Mm-hmm. It was insane. It was great.
So the defect, rightly so, is the third character that you actually unlock when you start playing the game, because you start off only being able to play one, then you move on to unlocking the silent, and then the third one is the defect, which I think is the one they added most recently during early access. Yeah. So it's the most complicated one for sure.
Yeah. The first character, which is the Ironclad, is definitely the simplest character, being the starting one and the one that they first added to the game. So his passive ability is just you heal a little bit at the end of every encounter, which
handy.
you can. Yeah, very handy and very helpful for new players, where managing your life between encounters is one of the trickiest things to get right as you're learning the game. So having that passive heal really helps. And then his cards are basically pretty standard, just like heavy damage attacks. And I found he was rather defensive too. I found that he was more defensive than the silent for the runs that I went on. Like I had a good run where he has an ability, like a card that you can get where your block doesn't expire at the end of the turn. So and then so you could stack heaps of block, and then there was another card that just doubled your current block level. And then so I just found myself tanking heaps. I had like over 100 block in one encounter, just because of the insane stacking that it does. And then, but there are definitely different ways of approaching each character. So because they do have they have a few different things going on besides their main sort of ability. So depending on the first couple of cards you're offered, you can kind of skew towards one strategy, I found.
Yeah, definitely. How you build your deck determines how each character plays.
And something you need to continue to decide as you're going on your run as well, because, I mean, you start off with a finite number of cards in your deck and it continually cycles through. So every turn, any cards that sort of get dealt to you that you don't spend go into your discard pile, and then eventually when your deck's exhausted, you just get cards get shuffled back into your deck. So you will see every card that you've got multiple times during a fight generally, which means that sort of trimming down your deck to being very sort of streamlined and only includes the cards that you want to be seeing a lot of, as opposed to just filling it up with rubbish, is really important. And there are various points during your run where you actually get a chance to remove a card from your deck, but it usually costs you quite a bit of money or something to be able to do that. So, it's almost as expensive to remove a card from your deck as it is to add one sometimes,
but it's more valuable to remove sometimes too. So absolutely. I definitely got into the habit of removing cards pretty much whenever I could, because that's definitely something that I only learned after a couple of runs. Is at first I was just adding, because after every encounter you get the chance to pick between 3 different cards, and I was just adding a card every single time and not thinking about it. And then I realized later on that I should be more selective and only add cards that suit my sort of approach. And just because I'm just being offered a reward for the encounter doesn't mean I have to take it.
Definitely. There's also the opportunity occasionally to upgrade some of the cards in your deck as well, which is handy. So you can make the basic ones you start with better without having to necessarily switch them out, which is a good way around it. But
or transform them too.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good.
Some of them sort of function in different sort of funky ways if you get the opportunity to do that. So, but I think we should probably talk about the general map kind of element to the game and the progression too, because that's a pretty important part. So, the game's kind of separated into different acts, and each act has a run that you can kind of select in a way. Like there's kind of 4 different interlocking paths, and you start off at the beginning of any of those 4 paths, and you can kind of, as they cross over each other, you can sort of switch the way that you go throughout the run. But what it means is it sort of changes up the number of enemy encounters, the number of mystery sort of encounters, the number of boss fights occasionally, and the number of chances to sort of hit the merchant and buy cards and trim your deck.
Bonfires to heal.
And the rest points as well. So you might decide that you actually want to have more sort of battle encounters because you're doing well, you're not taking any sort of long-term damage, and you want to sort of earn more rewards. Or you might want to try and avoid them and hit more rest stops or more chances to buy new cards depending on how your run's going as well. So, you actually do have a bit of agency over how that sort of progression goes. But there is generally a big boss at the end of the arc, and just about everything you're doing throughout that entire kind of stage of the adventure is preparing for that big fight, which you don't always know how it's going to go. So, sometimes
especially some of them have rather unique quirks or like special abilities that you only discover too late, like the first time you fight them.
Yeah. I mean, having a deck that's good against single, like, tough targets versus decks that are good against hordes is a big difference there. And some of the big boss fights that you have at the end are actually things that split or that summon friends in, or, you know, you just don't know how it's going to go. So you might find that what you've built is actually entirely ineffective against what they're throwing at you. And there's a bit of a risk involved in that sometimes you just can't anticipate. So, yeah, it's a tricky one.
I definitely found on the earlier floors, it's advantageous to fight as many of the elite encounters as you can, because from the elite monsters, you can get the relics, which are really powerful. So the relics can do, really just fundamentally change the way you are fighting or make your cards so much better. And any chance you can get to add relics is really valuable.
Yeah, so
it can be bad ones too, though. If you go to a random encounter and you're asked to gamble on a relic, 50 chance of it being good, 50 chance of it being bad, just think carefully, because I got an awful one.
Yeah. I got a relic that basically ruined one of my runs because the other ones that I was forced to choose between were really bad as well, but the one I ended up with gave me some sort of advantage, but the downside was that I could no longer heal throughout the entire run. It's like, shit.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
I bet there's one really cute one called a flower pot. Did you get a flower pot?
No.
You just get some extra energy every 3 turns. It's so cute.
Yeah, I did get that one, yeah.
No, the relics are kind of like, they're different in a way because they're perpetual. Like, they sit above like the screen, and they're kind of something that's always there through every encounter. You don't have to sort of deal it out to yourself in card form usually.
Some of them are single use.
Yeah.
I had one where I got to draw 3 cards.
And then there's one that revives you at 50% once.
Oh, yeah, that was...
The lizard tail?
That was very helpful for one of my runs.
Oh, the lizard tail, yeah.
You've also got potions too, so you can pick up these little items called potions, and you can only hold 3 of them at most at any time. And you can kind of drink them outside of your turn sequence and give yourself like a once-off buff or bonus of some sort, or sometimes you can use them to do damage. So it's kind of like an expendable bonus for a turn without having to, use any resource to sort of use it apart from the potion itself. So that's kind of cool. I think that was interesting.
It just occurred to me that the map is pretty much exactly the same as FTL, if anyone's played FTL.
Like it's been ages.
Sort of branching paths with shops and then different levels. It's, very FTL. Yeah.
So how far did you guys actually get? So should we compare notes on progress? I also want to know that, Jam, you were not super excited about this game, given that it was a card-based game initially.
I delayed installing this game for 4 weeks because deck building's like, and roguelites, I'm like, Yeah. Even though we had 2 friends, Jason and Dave Hay, who were raving about this game, I was just 80% convinced I wasn't going to enjoy it.
To be fair, though, they are into the same kinds of card game stuff that Christian and I are into, so that was not necessarily a good sign.
I know, but I'm still a twit. And I haven't been feeling well, so I was like, I just don't have the energy to pick up a game that I don't want to play. I finally installed it. I friggin' loved it. I was worried about having to pay attention, but everything's just really well integrated in that you can pick up the characters. You don't need to be told how to play a character. You just learn as you go. You start at the start and have a crack. And it's fast-paced. I didn't get bored at any point in time because the opponent turns happen pretty quickly. And then it's me trying to figure out, okay, card, what combo do I need? I had a huge amount of fun with the way that the game plays out. They've got, visually you've got yourself and the monsters on screen with little, helpful, you can hover over anything if you need to understand what kind of status effects going on. Oh, wait, they've got spikes. If I hit them, I'm going to take damage, so I'll chuck my shield up and block first, smack them, and then I'm not dropping HP. Really easy to pick up. Much more fun than expected. I really enjoyed this. I was surprised.
I think there are definitely some design decisions that really help that. Like one being how every turn you get a certain amount of energy, and then you expend all of that energy in your turn, and then you get a fresh set of cards completely. So unlike a game like Hearthstone, where you have a hand that you're managing over the entire course of the game, and you're sort of adding one card in, and then in Hearthstone you also get sort of one extra mana each turn, and so the types of cards in your hand that you're able to play changes. Whereas in this, it's always, unless you've got a relic which is changing it, you've got the same amount of energy every turn, and your cards are, you can play all of them right from the start. Like there's no sort of 10 energy cards that you have to build up to. So it just makes things a lot more immediate and a lot sort of just
and
your decisions
intuitive.
are much more intuitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we should also
and
mention
it's great fun.
There was one other really important thing that we didn't mention, which is kind of ties into the whole strategy of the gameplay, is that the monsters actually telegraph what they're going to do in their next action ahead of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really important, because it means that you can look at what's about to happen and actually plan accordingly, but you still have to deal with the random nature of what's about to get dealt to you. So
Which is into the breach that we talked about a couple of months ago.
definitely,
Yeah.
Does the same thing. Yeah.
So as far as progress, my two best runs, I got very unlucky on the boss of the third act. One was playing Ironclad, one was playing the Silent. Both of them, I ended up drawing a hand of no block on a turn where the enemy was going to hit me for about 50.
yeah, yep.
And I did not have enough cards to even, chuck any status effects on them to weaken them or anything like that. And got wiped out in just one really unlucky turn on some great runs. So I've not beaten the third act. I've been very, very, very close. I got to level 50, which is the boss on the third act. My highest score so far is 485. And that's with about 6 hours of playing.
Interesting.
But you, Luke?
I'm just looking at my score now. So
Okay.
yeah,
And that was with the Silent. I thought my best run was with the Defect, but it wasn't. He was a short way behind.
So my best score is 491, and I died on the exact same spot you did, Jam. So my best run was with the Silent, and I died against the third act boss. And the deck that I was playing was a very heavy poison deck, because I had a relic that basically any time a monster with poison on it died, it passes off the poison to another random monster.
Nice.
And that was freaking insane.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, so good. It basically, it made sense for me just to stack all of the defensive buffs I possibly could in my deck and just like put as much poison in as I possibly could, and it almost like trim out a heap of my attack cards so that I could just literally sit there, tank up, and just let the poison do the job for me, which was great.
Yeah.
So
I had a ton of, I think was the Silent, a ton of Shiv cards and other interesting cards that I'd, through improving them, upgrading them, managed to reduce their cost to 0, plus that one uber powerful gold card that let me pull all of my 0 cost cards from my discard pile.
Ooh.
So when I hit that, I was usually able to just smash. But I just discovered that I'd probably ignored my defense just a little too much.
Yeah.
So boss of the third act, that was your top, Luke?
Yep. Level 50 as
so
well.
I also got to the boss of the third act with the Silent, also with like a heavy poison run, but my interaction was a little different. So I had a relic where every time I took damage, I inflicted poison on the enemy, and then another relic where every time I inflict poison, I inflict one more poison.
Oh, I had that too.
Yeah. So it meant like every time I'd take damage, they'd get like 2 poison, and then I had just a bunch of chain reactions going, and that got me all the way to the third boss. But I actually completed the game with the Ironclad, so I finished the game with the Ironclad. And anyone who doesn't want to know sort of how long this game goes or how many levels there are should skip ahead like 2 minutes.
I'm going to listen.
So you're all on the final boss.
Yeah, I thought so. Shit.
So the end of the third act is the final boss so far, and then as soon as you defeat that boss, you basically just you kill the heart of the spire, which is like a big beating heart, and then it tells you your score that you've done kind of gets added into a total pool of every player who's beaten the game. It has like a astronomical number of like everyone's combined score, which kind of represents like the combined damage that you've done to the heart of the spire. And so my highest score was 777. That's what, the one time I beat it with Ironclad. And that actually leads into one of the things I liked least about the game, which is the brevity of it, where when I did finish it, I was shocked that was the end of the game. And then doing some reading, it is definitely a symptom of it being an early access game. That's all they've done so far, and they are planning on having more levels. Because it did feel, I was expecting to keep going and get more relics for my character and fight tougher and tougher enemies. So I was a bit surprised when it ended on the third. There's only 3 acts.
Did you unlock? Dave and Jason have both unlocked a format where it's unending. Since beating the game. And I don't know what prerequisites there are to unlocking that, but they're having massive fun.
Okay.
Trying to stay on the path. I think Dave's up to 600 levels or something.
Oh, okay. Right. That might change it a bit, because when I finished the game, I did look up, like, is there a secret ending or like a secret way to progress? Because in Binding of Isaac, I know that's what happens, where you go to like the bottom of the basement, which is where Isaac's set, and then you finish it, but then there's a secret way to like keep going into hell afterwards. But the first time you finish the run, you can't do that. So I was expecting that there might be something similar, but if there is an endless mode, I can see, that would definitely resolve that. I did notice there's like a daily challenge mode too, where there's like a alternating twist on a character that you can just try each day and then have like a leaderboard to see how you did, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So what did you think about the sort of the visuals and the audio sort of side of the game, the art style and the soundscape essentially? Was it something that appealed to you, or what was your take on that?
I thought it was super average.
Yeah, but I liked the simplicity of it at the same time. I didn't want music that would get on my nerves. Like, for that sort of game, I'd prefer something I can easily block out, I think.
Yeah.
And the art style, it's a bit cartoony, but it portrayed enough information that I understood exactly what was going on at any given point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was really helpful.
It definitely wasn't busy looking, which is good.
I quite like the backdrops, but the character models for the monsters in particular, I wasn't a huge fan of.
No.
But the cards I actually didn't like. I thought the cards were jarring in the way that they didn't match the aesthetic of the rest of the game, really. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't mind the cards.
I could see there being a bit of a visual overhaul as this goes through early access into a final game. Like I could definitely see the cards getting reworked.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's the last thing that they've, I guess put their time and effort into, though, because the mechanic of the game's very polished. For an early access game, it's very well balanced and well put together.
Yeah.
Like, there's a challenge there, but you can, it's easy to learn, but mastering it, there's just so many options.
Off straight away.
Oh, yeah.
So not because I didn't like it, just because I wanted to, I was watching Twitch on my other monitor most of the time I was playing this game. I just found the game visually and kind of innocuous. Just, it wasn't offensive. It wasn't really cool to look at. It was just kind of used like a utilitarian.
Yeah.
So
it had what it needed.
And because you're not on a clock when you're playing it as well, you could quite easily just play it in windowed mode and multitask like you did. So yeah,
sure,
absolutely.
Yeah. I think as far as like other sort of criticisms I'd have, this isn't so much of a criticism as it is just something that the game I don't think deserves to be praised for, which is I don't think it's terribly original. I think that it has kind of just remixed a bunch of other existing games and like the way they've approached roguelikes and into like a new package, but I don't think it's especially original.
The way that they blended it all together was quite good. Mechanically, the one thing I didn't like that kind of grated on me a little bit is I actually didn't like the relic system. So I thought that...
What?
I love the relic system.
Really? No, it was really the down point of the game for me, because I thought that the precise nature in which you can tune your deck was good, because you can sort of exercise a lot of control over trimming that and getting it really lean and making it sort of do a particular thing. But the relics to me just seemed to be like random effects just layered onto each other that did a whole bunch of stuff that was kind of outside of the skill area of the game, and I didn't like that. It just seemed like play this game and then a whole bunch of random shit sort of happens in one big heap at the beginning.
That's the roguelike juice. That's the roguelike engine.
I factored in my relic abilities into my decision making. They changed the way I played my characters. When I got a relic that boosted the silence energy by 2 at the start of each combat, where she was already drawing 2 extra cards at the start of each combat, suddenly I had the option to like smash out some powers which last for the duration early and get any defense up I need or make some attack. Like I thought they were great.
What I would have preferred is the like a cap on the number of them that were active at any one time and some decision making around which ones you put in.
You want to pile them all in there, jam it into a crazy RNG machine.
Most I had was 11 and it was amazing.
Disagree. Yeah. No, I thought it would have been better if it was more limited. But anyway, that's me. So
yeah, I can see that as a taste thing, because I think that it is so many roguelikes have that same system. So in Isaac, you get the items and they change the way that your bullets work, or you have different like upgrades, and they pile on top of each other and they form crazy combinations that you could never imagine. And like in Darkest Dungeon, your sort of quirks that your characters develop, similar sort of thing, I guess. But I don't know. I just feel like in order to keep the game random every time, and in order for sort of broken combos to emerge, it is the kind of thing that I think helps the game for me in that way.
The replayability. It just adds so much to replayability. I get so excited every run through I do. I think I've played at least twice on each character. Every time I run through, I'm discovering new cards and new relics, and it's hilarious.
So we should probably mention that, like, as a roguelike, of course, a lot of your progress gets reset, but you do unlock higher power tiers of cards that can start cropping up during future runs as well, depending on how well you do. So that's a good reason to keep playing. Yeah.
One thing I was also surprised about, I guess it's the random nature and the freakiness of it. I pulled off some weird achievements in my noobness. Like, I very quickly got the achievement for winning a battle against a boss with only 1 HP.
Oh.
And also for defeating a boss without losing any health.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's just bizarre. There's some fun achievements, and it was nice seeing them pop up and ding, because, I hadn't even read them. And suddenly I was like, oh, look what I did.
Yeah.
Huh. Whoops. That was a mistake.
Makes me wonder how many there are. There must be quite a few.
There's a bunch, and they're pretty cool. But, yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right, well, what's everyone's final thoughts then? What would you finish on? Jam?
Would recommend even consider having a go if you don't like these types of games, because it's fun. And I will be playing it every now and then when I want something to, distract me for half an hour or so.
That's fair. Christian, what about you?
I think fans of turn-based games, fans of deck-building games will love it, and fans of roguelike games will definitely love it. So I think, this game has a broad appeal, and I do definitely recommend it.
I enjoyed it, but I think I enjoyed it less than you two, is where I'll sort of finish.
I am shocked.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised as well. So, because
also, you're wrong about the relics. You're fun as well.
yes.
No, all of the stuff that Christian just mentioned, like I generally fit very strongly into all of those loves. Like, I really enjoy roguelikes. I really enjoy card games. Really enjoy, the PvE type card games as well. There's something about this one that just didn't 100% land for me, and I am actually really dirty that I can't put it into words what it is, but it just didn't quite click in the way that I hoped it would. So I did enjoy it, and I can recognize that it's a very good game, but for some reason it's just one that I bounced a little bit further off than I thought I would. So I don't know.
That's fair. And to add to the pile, we have 2 friends who went mad about it and filled our WhatsApp chat with just endless discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's going, stop, take it to another room. Oh my God. It's hilarious.
My final thought would be just to add that because it is early access, I would perhaps suggest waiting until it's like in a full release for people to buy it, because my main criticism is the brevity of the game. I think that it is a bit short, and the amount that I've played it, which is only about 8 hours, I'm probably nearly done with it because I don't think it has much more to offer me at this point. So
at least they are pretty on the ball with regular updates and communication with their sort of customers. So seems like they definitely have a timeline in mind for when they're going to get that ready for full release. So it's a good example of how early access could be done well, I think. So Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, that is this month's Party Game of the Month. Now, we are going to change up how we do this a little bit from this episode onwards. So we are going to start, as of tonight, a bit of a new competition for our listeners. So,
we want to give back to you, dear listeners.
That's it. Yeah, we want everyone to take part in the fun that we're having, essentially, and get everyone to join the party, essentially, for the Party Game of the Month segment. So to that end, what are we going to be offering, Christian? What are we going to be giving away?
So we've decided, because anyone who's listened before knows that we encourage you, dear listeners, to send in suggestions of games to add to our random table we roll to decide the Party Game of the Month. And so over the course of the next month, if you write in and we choose your game to add to the list, you will win a copy of the party game we're about to roll up. So on next month's on next month's party game episode, we will reveal which game we've chosen to add to the list and the winner of said prize. Yeah, so you can win the game, which is awesome. Win just by listening and writing.
That's it.
So send us some cool suggestions.
Yeah, so send us some cool suggestions, and then you can win a game.
Luke, tell us what criteria the suggestions have to meet, because I've already closed the document.
Yes.
All right, well, it's super simple, everybody. All you got to do is actually suggest a game to us that is actually out. You don't want to suggest something that is vaporware or hasn't actually been released yet, because we can't freaking play it. So make sure that it's a PC, mobile, or a multi-platform game. Console games are fine as long as they're not console exclusives, because we may not necessarily have the same access to each of the individual consoles. So if you send us
no Xbox.
Yeah, exactly. If you send us an Xbox exclusive, then Christian can't play it. And that's all bad. So it can't be any more than US $30. If it's less than that, that's cool. But that is the maximum that we're willing to sort of spend on these particular games. And we want to be able to get a good impression from just a few hours of play. So don't send us any monsters that require 80 plus hours to, No
MMOs.
No, exactly. That's, whilst they're no doubt good games, we can't get a good handle on them for a Party Game of the Month discussion. So something that we can, get our head around reasonably briefly would be preferred. We particularly love multiplayer games that are able to be played online with each other, but that is by no means a core requirement. You can send us anything. We will just be very happy if those things get rolled up. So there you go. But yeah, send in your suggestions through all the usual means. So you can hit us up on our Facebook page. Just look for Party Loaded on Facebook, on Twitter @PartyLoadedShow. And you can also use email if you're basically ancient and still use that stuff. And we are mail@partyloaded.com.
Rude.
Well,
let's. I want to hurry up and find out what game we're going to be giving away. So let's roll the next month's game.
Yeah. So to be clear, send your suggestions in. Go into the running. We roll your game up, and then basically we have one winner per month. So all right.
Yep.
What have we got? So give it a roll,
ready.
Jam.
You ready?
Get it going.
All right, rolling it. We've got a number 5.
Oh, okay. So do we actually want to sort of mention who this one was suggested by, Christian?
I don't know what it is. I'm not cheating.
Yes.
We do?
Tell everyone. Luke.
Okay, all right. So this one has been sent in by Matt Diet. So Matt Game Dad Diet, who's been on the show for
Yes!
a number of times before.
I know what it is.
This one is called Cultist Simulator. Now,
I'm very happy this one came up.
we spoke to him recently about this, and I actually can't remember too much detail about it. So does anyone happen to have it in front of them right now?
I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's another card-based game, but it's not really deck building. It's like a story discovery branching path weird game where you play cards in spots on a board, and then
the location's important because it unravels the next something of the story.
We'll obviously learn a lot more about it when we play it, but it's some sort of weird sort of Cthulhu Lovecraftian cult simulator.
All right, so it was released fairly recently on the 1st of June, and the spiel on it is seize forbidden treasures, summon alien gods, feed on your disciples. Cultist Simulator is a game of apocalypse and yearning from Alexis Kennedy, creator of Fallen London and Sunless Sea. Play as a seeker after unholy mysteries in a 1920s themed setting of hidden gods and secret histories. So there you go. It is single player.
Awesome.
So it's a RPG kind of game with card elements. Yeah, it looks weird. You can found your own
Sorry.
religion, indoctrinate innocents, summon alien gods, all good things.
So if we had started our competition slightly sooner, Matt may have won a copy of our last game of the month.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want a copy of the Cultist Simulator, send us some suggestions, some fun games, more dating sims, because that will drive Luke bonkers.
No, don't do
that. That would be great.
No. All right. So, you basically from now until we run our next Party Game of the Month episode, that's the window for this round of the competition at least. And this is something we're looking at doing perpetually. So we're not just doing it for 1 month. We're going to be doing it sort of rolling on from this point onwards until the foreseeable future at the very least. So, which is good. And first episode of each month is Party Game of the Month. So you have that amount of time to get that in before we...
by the end of this month.
Yeah, tell you all about this weird cultist simulator thing. So that's going to be interesting. All right. Well, otherwise, that's pretty much a show. Now, we do have one little other bit of business which is worth mentioning. So, this is going to be perhaps the last time for a little while that you're going to have Party Loaded in this exact format, because you may not have a show in the immediate future that is the three of our voices together in this combination, because as of next week, we are going to be bringing in some new talent. So we aren't going to announce...
So we're not leaving.
Yeah.
We're not leaving.
No, we're not going anywhere.
Intriguing.
Not going anywhere.
Yeah, you made it a bit weird.
Well,
You made it sound like we were switching to
weird.
VR or something.
No, we're
Gosh.
not doing that. That's crazy talk. So, Jam's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Christian's not going anywhere. But we're going to have some company next week, and we will announce exactly who that is at the top of next week's show. So if you are curious to see who's going to be joining us on a permanent, ongoing basis as new hosts, then tune in and find out more next week. So there you go. We will probably leave it on that note there. So any immediate plans worth calling out between now and next week? We're all playing the same sort of stuff we've been playing in this dead space of the year. That's kind of...
Yeah, just putting along.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really still want to find a porg in No Man's Sky.
A porg. Interesting.
The closest I can get.
I've encountered some weird cupcake sort of executor-style monsters jumping around, which I want to get a closer look at.
I've seen got little jumping turd-looking things on one. Yeah, it's a bit weird.
It's kind of bizarre, yeah. But that is all for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you tune in next week for our exciting announcement stuff. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you then. Good night.
Happy gaming.
Bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.